on the program. She's the managing director of the Abortion Support Network, which helps those who are unable to safely access the procedure in their country. Thank you so much for joining us today, Camille.
Hi, Erin. Thanks for having me.
Well, before we get to the situation here in France, there's been, I think you could argue, a recent shift in abortion rights in numerous parts of the world in recent years, notably, of course, the United States. In general, what are some of the most concerning developments that you've seen?
We see this global shift. Let's be honest, there's been, over the last 50 years, thanks to the work of people like Simone Weil, a general liberalization of abortion restriction. But worryingly, we see also some very loud minorities that are leading a far-right campaign to reduce abortion access. And we see that playing out in Europe, here in Poland, in the US. But we also hear noises from all over the place. In the UK just this week, there's been some other loud noises being made about reducing access here. So it's something that we think about. We really need to remember that abortion access everywhere is fragile, and damage to abortion access anywhere damages it everywhere, because those voices become louder, they resonate around the globe. And while abortion is so as stigmatized as it is, it remains extremely fragile.
So what kind of work does the Abortion Support Network do in order to respond to some of these growing challenges?
So we're the UK's only abortion fund. We run a helpline that supports pregnant people across Europe to access abortion. We started 15 years ago working in the Republic of Ireland, in Ireland, and the Isle of Man. And since that time, we've expanded across all of Europe. We do different kinds of work. It's a volunteer-run helpline, so it's people giving their time to help other people to get the information and support that they need. Sometimes it's just telling them where they can access support. Sometimes it's paying and arranging for travel, accommodation, and clinic appointments. We work with partners across Europe. We couldn't do our work without the vibrant connectivity of abortion activists across Europe, ranging from volunteer-run collectives to large clinics and hospitals. Last year, we supported 1,000 people from 44 countries. We funded 300 abortions in Europe at the average cost of just under £1,000 a person. £1,000 a person. It's a lot of money.
So you help women in countries where women face heavy penalties for having abortions, including prison terms. Have you faced threats or danger from hostile governments for your work?
We haven't personally as a network, but we know that abortion activists everywhere are vulnerable. We work particularly closely with activists in Poland who we know there's been some very high-profile cases of people being persecuted and penalized and criminalized for just doing this very basic act of providing what the World Health Organization calls essential healthcare.
Here in France, Camille, you work with undocumented immigrants. Even though abortion is indeed a right here and has been, as we know, for 50 years, what are some of the specific challenges that undocumented people face here in France when it comes to accessing abortion?
Undocumented people face trouble everywhere accessing abortion, and in France it's no different to anywhere else. If you need to travel for your abortion, you need papers in order to travel to do that. And it's one of the ways that abortion restriction and border control really collude against people with insecure immigration status to stop them being able to access essential healthcare. But I also want to maybe let people know that it's not just people with insecure immigration status in France whom we help. So our largest client group in Europe is from Poland, but our fastest growing client group last year was people from France, pregnant people from France with and without documentation. So why? Why are people from France accessing us? Gestational time limit restrictions in France mean people are forced to travel for abortion. So they have to not only navigate their own personal circumstance, but also a complicated journey, unfamiliar healthcare systems to access essential healthcare. Last year, we supported 56 French pregnant people at a total cost of £50,000. Most of that money went straight to clinics. So these are costs that our individual donors give that should be covered by the state, right? The year before that, we helped 15 pregnant people. Do I think there were more pregnant people in France needing abortion in 2024? No. But what I know is that people need to know who they can access support from when the state lets them down.
As a final question for you, Camille, last year access to abortion was enshrined into the French Constitution. Do you see this as something just that's purely symbolic? How much of a difference do you think it would make? And do you think that other countries should go down the same path?
It's such a good question. I think the symbolic acts are really important. One of the biggest barriers around abortion access is stigma. Stigma is what creates a fertile environment for hostile restrictions, hostile legislation, for the kind of changes that we see happening globally. So do I think it's important? Yes. Do I think the work around legislation is important? Absolutely. But more than that, we as communities have to be organised. Our work relies on volunteers. We need informed communities that recognise abortion as essential healthcare, that are prepared to actively resist attacks on abortion access, and really understand that abortion should be available to anyone, anytime, any place, without question. And that takes more than legislation. That takes an informed community that's committed to resisting the shame, resisting the power and control that kind of provides the framework in which abortion restriction can flourish, to really centre care and dignity, respect and humanity.
Camille Kumar of the Abortion Support Network, thank you so very much for your time and coming on the show today.
Thanks, Erin.